1969 is when we first came. I was a young mother with 4 kids, 13 and under, down to age 3. And by myself, and my neighbor asked me to come to church here. I just always felt the need to give back. I just felt like I'd been saved from so much. The first thing I actually did was babysit for a Bible study, because my baby was like 3 years old, and I felt like they needed somebody to babysit for the people that were in the Bible study. Now we are involved in a small group, my husband and I, and for the last 8 years we've been in charge of the cleaning ministry. We have about 100 people that clean every month. It takes them about an hour each one, but it saves the church thousands and thousands of dollars. You don't really feel like you belong until you get involved, and you have to connect with somebody. Of course, it was my neighbor. Just try something, whatever your interest is. If you have little kids, get involved with the kids. If you don't want to be with kids, then get involved with a different area.
I grew up first in Indianapolis, Indiana, and one of 10 children. And then moved down to Madison, Indiana, finished up high school down there. And I've migrated down to this area in probably the last 10 years. It had been quite a few years before I found Eastside that I hadn't really been involved in a home church. Been looking, been searching, but I'd been away from the Lord for a while, a good while. And it got to be a point where that didn't appeal as much as it used to. I grew up in a very, very musical family. My father was a musician, still is. So I grew up listening to him singing 4-part quartets and Southern gospel bands, and we had a music room in the house with keyboards and pianos and guitars and full drum set. So music's been something that it's a gift God's given me. And I had a friend invite me to come check out Eastside. I'd never been before, and truthfully I wasn't real sure how I felt about a bigger church. I hadn't been involved in a church family for a few years. One of the first things that made me like Eastside is Pastor Dave started talking about the Louisville Cardinals. But the biggest thing that hit me is I hadn't even gotten home from lunch after church, and Pastor Dave actually sent me a text from his personal phone. I don't know if he'd stayed at the church and hadn't even gone to lunch yet, but the fact that in a large church like that the pastor had reached out to somebody that just filled out a visitor card, he didn't know me from anyone, that really meant a lot. So after I had visited for 2, 3, 4 weeks at Eastside, I got the opportunity to meet Kyle. And being a fellow musician, I obviously enjoyed the music. It's really good, powerful music. He'd mentioned, hey, after you start coming for a little while, let's get you linked in, to the music team, and get you plugged in and start having you worship with us. And I told him, I said, I don't know if I'm ready to get up and lead. And he said something to me that I'll always remember. He said, if you don't do something now, you're never going to do it. And that meant a lot to me, that somebody that was a fellow musician, a fellow Christian, could look past some of the things that I'd been struggling with, and give me an opportunity to be flawed, but to use my gifts for God's glory. Seeing the sacrifice and the hard work and really the passion for the Lord that goes into it, it's made me love our church even more than I did before, and I'm just excited to be there. I haven't felt like I've had a church home in years, and I've found a place where God has planted me and called me to be at, and I just can't say how excited I am.
I played football at Grambling State University on scholarship. Played defensive end. Brittany, she went to the University of Louisville and she ran track.
Go Cards. After he got done playing football, he went through the NFL draft, NFL stint, and kind of had some other options and some different paths. So the way we ended up meeting right out of school pretty much, I was a restaurant manager at a local restaurant here in Louisville called Max and Irma's. I was in the kitchen one night and I ran some food out to a table, and he happened to see me and asked the server all these questions and said, I want her to bring my food out. So we say that basically our life started over a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, because that's what he ordered. Even all the way up to when we started dating and as we started building a relationship together and decided that we were going to spend our lives together, even though he was brought up in the church and still going to church faithfully every Sunday, I would stay home.
We got married in 2008. Took an opportunity with a local insurance company here, Humana. And somehow, and I really believe this was God, we said, hey, we're going to go to Eastside.
And it was funny because we were probably like 30 minutes late. I still was just like, I don't want to go. I don't want to be a part of it, and I was really kind of in a block where I just still had a problem with, I was concerned about how people would think, how people would perceive me. And, when we got married, it was a situation where he was just like, look, this is going to be an ultimatum. If we're going to be together and we're going to grow together as a family, we have to have a strong spiritual foundation. And I think that was really the push that it took for me to be able to kind of put all that stuff aside and say, okay, I'm gonna do this. So we go into Eastside 30 minutes late, and even though we got there 30 minutes late, there were still people there walking around and came up and greeted us, shook our hands, and that was the first time where the energy was great, just everybody there, and I think that's what we like about it the most, is that it feels like a family.
I think immediately, we were taken, by that energy, and to a point where we said we wanted to continue to come, and we've been coming ever since.
We've been coming ever since, and I was actually baptized at Eastside. Yeah. I think one of the biggest steps that we took was we joined a small group.
We're trying to figure out how can we become more involved, and not only with involvement, how can do some other things that could lead other folks to find Eastside and Christ. And so for me, I started helping out with security. I started volunteering, and I really enjoy like all of our other activities, like the health and wellness clinic, the free markets and things like that. Mm-hmm. We've all benefited from it, and I see it's brought my family so much closer. Not only just going to Eastside, but participating in these activities. Eastside, like I said, has been nothing but a tremendous support system for us, for us to grow.
We're the only ones here. My family is all in Michigan. His entire family's in Georgia, and I just really feel like the people at Eastside are like an extension of our family, and it's
genuine love. Mm-hmm. Being a part of all these extended activities that Eastside offers, it really helps us continue to grow.
So it might be a situation where you might take a look at the announcements, or you might look on the internet, and you might say, okay, well, hey, there's something going on maybe on a Tuesday. Why don't we check it out? Because I know for me, after I was baptized, Vicki invited me to a couple, to some women's Bible studies, and I started going to those. And from there, you just really start meeting people. So I think it's that next step, and I just really feel like God put all these pieces in place, Antoine, us going to Eastside, and even all the different services that we do for Eastside now, and all the different groups and small group and teams that we're on. It's great.
I grew up in Southern Indiana my entire life and attended college at the University of Louisville. Go Cards! I graduated in 2006 and moved to Jeffersonville, Indiana at that time. I didn't really attend church in college. I just was very, very busy working a couple jobs and putting myself through college. And after college, I lived on Holman's Lane, which is very near Eastside. So I would drive by Eastside, and that's where I saw the church and just decided to go there because it was close to home. Whenever I first came to Eastside, I was just immediately welcomed with open arms. That was a part of my life when I was a little lonely, so that was exactly what I needed. and I invited my best friend to come to Eastside with me, and we came every Sunday. And a few Sundays of doing that, Preacher Hastings came up to us before church and said, "Well, you must be Jenna and you must be Devin." And it just flabbergasted me that he knew our names and approached us. I was just so welcomed. So it was then whenever I decided, I want to join this church, and I did the very next Sunday. Now I no longer live on Holman's Lane. My job has brought me to Indianapolis. I had a job offer up here that I was approached about and decided to take it. I was involved with the children's ministry at Eastside and, wanted to continue that and, made a commitment. And so now I'm no longer close to church. I'm actually 2 hours away, but I still don't miss a single Sunday. So on a typical Sunday, I would get up at 6 and, be ready to walk out the door by 7 to make sure that I get to Eastside on time to help with the early childhood ministries at 9 and attend church. And then typically I'll meet up with friends or family for lunch and spend some time with them and then head home, Sunday evening. So it makes for a long day, but it's totally worth it. Well, I am very into health and fitness, and on a daily basis, people will make comments about, what do you do for workouts or what do you do for dieting? And they would always approach me and say, "Can you help me with my workout? Can you help me with my dieting?" Well, one day it just hit me that, health and fitness is a lifestyle, and I wanted to live a God lifestyle. I wanted people to look at me and say, "What does she have? I want that." So I actually made a declaration to my friends and my family for, accountability, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to live this God lifestyle. And I decided to help in the children's ministry. I have some family members that are children, and I know their family lifestyle, might not always be the best. So I at least want to know that there's kids that can come on Sunday, and I can love them and they can learn about God, because there's children in my own family that don't even have that luxury. So that's why I chose the children's ministry. But I've also helped with the health and wellness clinics and the community action Christmas dinner that Eastside does. People will oftentimes tell me that you're doing too much, or this person or that person is taking advantage of you. But I give and I do to show God's grace and love and mercy. And the fulfillment that I get with that is just so overwhelming that I don't have any expectation outside of that. And I even, become a servant to those that have mistreated me. And it's not always easy, but I know that it's a demonstration of God's forgiveness. I want my life to be demonstrative of God's love and grace and forgiveness and mercy. And I want to be able to outreach to someone every time I step foot outside of my door. And I feel like Eastside and their leaders and their ministries have the exact same mission statement as I do. So I come to Eastside because they educate and empower me to do so. Eastside reached out to me and my life has changed, and I definitely want to be a part of that ministry.
I'm Darlene,
My name's Aquila.
We're the Lawrences,
My name is Jetta,
and I love
and we love our church.
and I love my
church.
I love my church.